Jeff, anyone else we're not thinking about here? What's your take on all these other boxes?
I already have a PC hooked up to my TV. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
like the people that are extreme all the way down the rabbit hole and that stuff are already doing this. So the Steam box, you know,
Big picture mode you're using now, probably, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can do all that stuff right now. I think the thing about Apple that makes it so scary, though, is that that's an ecosystem that people are already understand and are used to. Whereas, you know, the console ecosystems are good for console ecosystems.
Yeah,
but if you start to really pull back on that and go like, oh, I've got a phone, like, who's got a Windows phone? Who cares about that sort of stuff? You know, like Microsoft just said, like, oh, don't worry, guys, we're doing smart glass for iOS. You know, Sony's out there saying similar stuff like, hey, you know, we understand we need to have the mobile experiences where you have your mobile experiences.
Right.
So if Apple can come out and say, end to end, we run this whole thing.
Right, your phone, your tablet.
Yeah,
I think the problem with Apple is that people fear their level of control.
Yeah.
Apple tells content owners what to do and they don't like it. I think that Apple is a digital distribution model that's kind of compulsive. You can't get a disc, which means retail's going to be pissed. And if retail says, we're not promoting your game if you launch the same time on Apple, I think Apple gets a delay if they get the game at all.
Right.
I think Apple wants to sell you a device for every room in your house. So they don't want to sell you one device that'll work on all your TVs. They want to sell you a separate TV.
Or maybe they sell you one expensive, powerful device and a bunch of mirroring devices.
But the barrier to entry is it's going to be an expensive device regardless.
Sure.
It's not going to have the software support at the outset. Retail's going to push back because it's just digital distribution. So I think you guys are giving Apple way too much credit.
And there's no guarantee that they even really care about games. If anything, they've shown that they don't.
I think they're a little bit spooked by the concept of games because it's not a very solid digital model. They built their business on music. Music was already being ripped off digitally or by download. And so they said, we have a solution. And they came up with a solution. Everything else is built on that. I don't know if you guys would remember this, but the HBO pulled The Sopranos from iTunes because Apple told them how much they're going to charge per episode, and HBO said no. It's the first time anybody ever stood up to Apple.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to work if Apple does it smoothly for years. And so I'd say, 5 years from now, sure, they'll have something, and that.
And they wouldn't want to sell a peripheral either. Like they wouldn't want to sell a controller.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that whole control experience. They won't be interested in that
they
at
want
all.
you to play on your iPad.
Yeah.
I think if Apple gets in, it's one of those things that that snuffs out Ouya and GameStop, like all this other stuff. It's like, all right, those guys aren't going to.
Well, all iOS games would certainly.
But we want Sony and Microsoft scared of them because we want them to be smart about how they do things. They can't continue to be complacent in the way that they make decisions.
Oh yeah. No, and that threat even, I think, is driving them to say, like, oh, we got to nail our UI and our OS.
I actually think, though, you said it earlier, I think Sony is a very game developer-friendly company. Whether they screw up or not, they definitely have the right approach. They really do care. And that's going to put Microsoft on edge. I think Microsoft has to recognize if we don't do this, we're giving up a competitive advantage to a competitor, and they'll respond. So I actually think you're going to win. I think 2 is enough. For 2 guys really battling it out is enough. They're both going to battle it out this time. You mentioned that. Sony's not a year behind. They're not $200 higher price. They won't be. They're going to have similar features. When they're all done, consumers have a great choice between 2 great boxes. And if it comes down to software, you watch Microsoft get a lot more friendly. They're going to.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for the bonus round from GDC. Of course, there'll be lots more talk about these new boxes at E3, and we will be there live. Hope to see Michael, Andy, and Jeff with us again then. Thanks for hanging with us. All right, guys, we'll see you next week for an all-new bonus round.
See all of our shows and game reviews now on the brand new GT app on Xbox Live and the GT Originals iOS app too.